Hello and welcome everybody to the Herald's Scotland Euro 2020 coverage. I'm Jonny McFarlane and I'm here in Stuttgart ahead of the game on Sunday, a monumental game and a half, with Scotland having the opportunity to reach the last 16, the knockout phase of a tournament, a major tournament for the first time in their history. Joining me is Matthew Lindsay, who's in Garmisch. I'm not going to try and say Parkin Skirkin, even though I just did and failed. Matthew, how you doing?
Good. Yep, all good. Counting down the hours to Sunday. Really looking forward to it. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah, what a game it's going to be. We already are feeling here in Stuttgart, Matty, the Scots are beginning to arrive. I've now seen it 3 times, so I'm kind of prepared for the stages that the city goes through. Your first stages are your serious, hardcore dribs and drabs, where you'll maybe see one Scot in every 10, and it really feels like the takeover isn't properly started yet. Although any other time you'd say, wow, there's a lot of Scottish people here. But then as the days progress and as we're heading into sort of match day -1, you start to see a real ramp up. And already today, we've got other nations playing here. Obviously, we've had the Ukraine game, we've got Poland and Austria probably happening as we speak. And then tonight we've got, I think it's a good game, isn't it? It's France-Netherlands.
Oh, wow.
So we're starting to see a lot of people floating around of those nationalities, but still, even then, I would say Scots are outnumbering every other nationality by 10-1, but it's still not at the stage that we know it's going to get to. So the atmosphere, is I would say, is coming along quite nicely, and it's clear that there's going to be a phenomenal turnout here in Hungary, as there was. I mean, goodness me, Matthew, I didn't think anything could top Munich, and then Cologne was almost just as good. There was almost no differentiation between the two by the time we got into the day of the game and then the game itself. I actually think Cologne had a better atmosphere than Munich, to be honest.
I'd agree with that. And I think, maybe both inside and outside stadium, certainly inside, because, was it pretty much half and a half split, do you think?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. And it's a really nice, tight, compact stadium. Not that the Allianz Arena wasn't great, but no, the Cologne was absolutely amazing. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's tremendous. So regardless, the atmosphere is getting ready, and we know it's going to be explosive once we get down to it. There's never been a better chance. I've looked back, Matty, at all the opportunities that we've had over the years, and they've always been tough ones. It's never been doable. I mean, the one at France '98, people really thought Scotland would go and beat Morocco. I mean, at the time, I think Morocco were the African champions. It was a different time. It was a time when I think we were a bit more insular when it came to the larger world of football. And then when the Moroccans turned up, and they were absolutely at their scintillating best in 1998. But now we understand that nations like that can be pretty good. We go and have a look at them, and we go and see what they're all about. And if you look at Hungary, I think we've got a piece on the website by Joshua Barry later on, who's spent a good bit of time scouting them and having a look at them. Quite an interesting team with quite an interesting manager, and they're more than capable of causing Scotland serious problems. So anyone that thinks it's going to be an easy game or it's going to be straightforward, it's going to be sadly mistaken. I think this one will be tight, but I'm still confident Scotland can get that result based on the performance. Now, it wasn't Steve Clarke today at the press conference, it was John Carver, and there was a number of lines coming out of that. Now, listen, the first one, there's been a bit of fanfare on social media about it, but I think anyone with any common sense would have known that Kieran Tierney's tournament was over, with the way he reacted on going off, and just the instant situation where he starts to say, taking off the minute he goes down. It was obvious it was a bad one. It's now been confirmed that Tierney's not going to make the game. Matty, what's your reaction to that?
Not in the slightest bit surprised. I'm like you. The minute he went down on Wednesday night, I was like, that's him. That's his tournament over. For a couple of reasons. One, as you say, he went down straight away and started gesturing for medical attention. He went down clutching his hamstring. He's had hamstring issues for years, and also, a hamstring. The nature of a hamstring injury is such that you don't miss a week and then come back from that. So he was stretchered off. You wrote a piece yesterday about how he needed to receive gas and air. So it's tragic. It's such a shame. He's not had his troubles to seek with injuries and what have you. So I feel really sorry for him, and it's also a terrible blow for Scotland, because for me, Tierney was Scotland's best player in qualifying. I know McTominay scored 7 goals and got International Player of the Year awards and all the rest of it, but I thought Tierney was different level. I thought he was brilliant. Thought the combination that he had with Andy Robertson down the left flank was the best I've seen those two play together. So I think it's bad for Scotland. Scott McKenna has risen in my estimations. I used to think he was prone to a mistake or two during the game. I've since seen him have very, very good games for Scotland in the last couple of years. I think Steve Clarke has brought out the best of him, but he's not Kieran Tierney.
Yeah.
So
he's a good, solid, rough and tumble defender who can head the ball away brilliantly. If we're talking about aerial bombardments, you take Scott McKenna any day. He's also pretty quick. The problem you've got is progressing the ball out from the back. Kieran Tierney's fantastic, and he's a threat on the outside and on the inside in terms of coming through from the defence, and that's just not Scott McKenna. So if he retains that back three, Scotland are going to have a think about slightly different ways of manoeuvring the ball out. Now, the good news is if you've got Billy Gilmore in there, you can just say to the big lads, look, give it to Billy or give it to Callum, and they'll take care of that. So you'd feel a bit more confident with them in the team. But listen, there's one thing which is that changing shape is a ability. And under Steve Clarke, Scotland have always been flexible. Now, that's pretty much true. They have flitted between a back four and a back five at times, but you feel like a lot of the success that Scotland have had in terms of qualifying came out of that move to a back five, that extremely strong left side. Having said that extremely strong left side was always dovetailed with a very strong right with Hickey or Patterson, who could drive the ball into space, and we don't necessarily have that now. Do you think that that's something they should consider? I think Carver's alluded to that they might consider it, but should they be changing at this stage?
Yes. And there's a couple of reasons. When Andy Robertson was injured in 2022, he missed a few Nations League games, and Steve Clarke switched to a 4-2-3-1 for big Nations League games against Ukraine, Republic of Ireland, and then Ukraine again. And this was off the back of the Qatar 2022 playoff semi-final defeat to Ukraine and the Nations League defeat to the Republic of Ireland. Both, really disappointing performances and nights and results. And the transformation was remarkable. They were as good in those games as they were bad in the previous games at the end of the previous season. So I think they've shown that they can do it in important games, and I actually think that going to a back four would help Anthony Ralston a little bit. I don't know what you.
There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, I don't know what you think about that. I really feel for Anthony Ralston. I just think, he's had a lot of criticism for his performances. I think it's very difficult circumstances for him to come in on the back of not very much football for Celtic, and he's come into a 3-4-2-1, call it what you will, system that he doesn't play at Celtic. Now he's played it with Scotland before. I just think at this level, going to a back four, he might be more comfortable with that. I think
the question, I suppose, Matty, is with the wingers, just to cut in on you there. The problem, I suppose, if you're going to a back four is who's playing on the wide. Who's playing wide, left and right? So James Forrest, we know, can come in and play the right fantastically well, and you'd have faith that James Forrest can still produce in the big moments. We've seen that with Celtic, and this game's made for him in a lot of ways because the pressure that you face as a Celtic or Rangers player, in huge games in the Champions League in Scotland, if you've got the attitude and the mentality to stand tall, as James Forrest has shown that he can, then this is a game that you're probably going to eat up. The problem I would have is who are you going to play on the other flank? Who's going to give you that kind of that attacking threat down there?
Yeah, that's an excellent point. You're absolutely right. That does kind of raise that issue. Can you play McTominay, McGinn, Christie, McTominay, McGinn, Forrest ahead of McGregor and Gilmore in a 4-2-3-1? I'm not sure that you can. There's a lot.
Personally, out of the options in Scotland's squad, I would probably like to play Callum McGregor most out of the options, because I think he's got a wonderful left foot. He's played there when he was a lot younger, and he's obviously going to be moving inside. That's clear, but he's got the game intelligence to play out there. I think Callum McGregor, though, is going to be massively missed if you move him away from Billy Gilmore. I think Scotland need to build the Scotland team around the McGregor-Gilmore pivot. Those two and everyone else. And that needs to be the way of it going forward, I think.
Yeah, I completely agree. I actually said that before Callum McGregor got a lot of criticism after the Germany game, and I made the point, put Billy Gilmore in alongside Callum McGregor, and that'll sort that out. And Callum McGregor makes Billy Gilmore play well. Billy Gilmore makes Callum McGregor play well. So I think those two names have to be the first names down in the team sheet, and you build everything around them. But you do make an excellent point about going to back four, who's then your 3/4 line, and I don't know. There's plenty for Steve Clarke to mull over. I think I would be happier with a front four, but maybe I think when they looked at the Germany game, they felt they were lacking numbers in certain areas, and they tweaked things. They brought Gilmore in. They moved McTominay forward, and it worked. I think they were more on the front foot. They were more in the face of the opposition. They weren't so passive, and I think that was a great strength of the draw against Switzerland and Cologne. I think. They were just so timid against Germany. They just stood off them and got rid of possession, and they didn't do any of those things. And
they looked shook, Matty. Let's be honest. Let's put our cards on the table. They looked shook. They didn't look like they were comfortable. They looked like they were rattled by the environment, rattled by the standard of player they were up against, and they just never got close. We've seen all the stats about. 0 shots on goal, either on or off target. Tony Kroos with 99% ball retention. Just nobody got near anyone. I think the players, we've now spoken to quite a few players after the games. After both games, they referred to this problem of just Scotland not being Scotland and needing to get back to themselves. And I've spoken to a couple of people back home, Matty, and I think the two guys I spoke to, they kind of felt like we were a bit, and when I say we, I'm talking about the media, the sort of newspapers, the broadcast. They thought we were a bit over the top in our positivity about Scotland's performance against Switzerland. They felt there was a lot of negatives in the game that were kind of looked over because there was a euphoria that Scotland had played a little bit more like Scotland.
I'd agree with that. I think, but I think that you have to. I mean, my piece today pretty much says that, but I think that it has to be taken in context, and I think a lot of it was on the back of a 5-1 defeat to Germany, and looking like you're going to the tournament, and the whole thing's just going to be one almighty anticlimax. I think I think that was it was a far from a perfect performance. There was lots bad with it. They really rode their luck. Angus Gunn had 3 really important saves. He got cut open a lot at the back, but I think in the circumstances, it was quite a turnaround. And I don't think anybody in the Scotland camp is patting themselves on the back and saying that was great, more of the same. They know they have to tighten up at the back, they have to improve in midfield, and they have to be better up front against Hungary.
Well, listen, that's a great point. Just to say to anyone that's watching, we've got over 250 people on right now. If you want us to answer any questions, just reply in any of the social media platforms. Reply underneath the video, and we will get to your questions. But one thing that I keep seeing, Matthew, is I've seen a fair bit on social media of criticism of John McGinn. Now, I was talking to you about this privately after the game. We both kind of felt that John McGinn had a pretty strong second half, having been nowhere at this Euros for 90 minutes against Germany, and then the first half against Switzerland. We know he's a guy that's capable of producing moments of that. There is no doubt. Even his arch critics cannot deny that. You're talking about someone with an absolutely outstanding goal record for Scotland. I don't know have it off the top of my head. Is it something like 16 or 17 goals he's already got for his country? So he's delivering in that regard. How important is he that he starts to get into this tournament and shows what he's capable of in terms of getting Scotland to tick?
Yeah, I thought Jonny, you've been speaking to a right few negative Normans, haven't you?
I have indeed, yes. Yes. Well, possibly.
The Scotland performance wasn't. I think sometimes in these situations, the heart rules the head a little. But I think the criticism of John McGinn's been pretty over the top. I think he was certainly better in the second half than he was in the first half. But I didn't think he was awful in the first half. I thought he was very good in the second half.
He didn't really impact the game though at all, did he? I mean, he didn't create anything. He didn't have any shots of note. He's up there in that final third of the pitch to create something.
Yeah, no. Well, fair enough. I just didn't think he. I thought he was completely anonymous in the Germany game. I really didn't think he was up to anything in the Germany game. But no, I thought he was. I thought he was back to vintage John McGinn in the last, in the second half. And I noticed our colleague Ewan Payton wrote a column today about, should John McGinn be dropped for the Hungary game? And I don't think he should. I think I hope that this Scotland team is growing into this tournament. I hope that. That John McGinn got his bad game out the way. Scott McTominay certainly seems to have got his bad game out the way. Angus Gunn, obviously Grant Hanley coming back in made a massive difference. Callum McGregor was much improved. Billy Gilmore alongside him. I hope that the Scotland team's grown into the tournament, and we'll see a further improvement on Sunday. And I think we'll have to. Because I think, I don't know about you. Have you seen any Hungary games? I watched. Well, we watched a fair bit of their game against Germany. Right enough. Now, I thought they had some right good chances, didn't they?
Yeah, they made a much better fist of it than Scotland did. There is no doubt about that, and they've got some excellent players. But listen, Matty, I can't sit here and pretend that I'm an expert on Hungary. I've watched the two games, but I think on paper Scotland have a better squad than Hungary. They've got more players playing at a top level than Hungary, but there's a few in there amongst their ranks that are certainly excellent. And you have to think that the way they play, the way they're set up, they're capable of producing big results. We know they've beaten Germany, for example. They've beaten England. They didn't just beat England, they tore England to shreds. So I think if they're at their very best, Scotland are going to have a real struggle. And I think the star of their team is actually their coach, Rossi, who I've always been an admirer of Italian managers, Matty. Very tactical. They have the ability to change the games as they're going on, do something clever, do something off the wall. And I think the battle between him and Steve Clarke, whoever edges it, will probably see their team cross the line. It's certainly going to be fascinating to see how it pans out. think we're all really looking for something special to take us across the line. In terms of the other things that were said by John Carver, said he would have snapped your hand off to have a chance of progressing to the last 16 in the final game, which I think is just common sense. We've all said it. Highlighted the strength of Hungary and the fact they've only lost once in 15 games before the tournament started. You know, trying to, I suppose, arrest this notion that they're a team in decline because they've lost 2 close games. You know, the Switzerland game, for example, it was the day after what happened in Munich, and while Switzerland were brilliant in the first half, I thought Hungary were pretty good in the second, and probably Switzerland were a little bit flattered by that third goal, which came on the break in the final moments, and just put the game to bed. The other thing that he said I thought was interesting, because I thoroughly agree with him. He's talking about the Flower of Scotland before kick-off in the Cologne Stadium. And I don't mean to continue this sort of loving that I've clearly got with Cologne, but I thought that stadium was just like Tynecastle times 10.
Yeah.
It was. You were so on the pitch and on top of the players, and the wall of sound with the national anthem for Scotland and some of the moments in the game, it was impossible not to get wrapped up in it. And that's what I was saying to these negative Normans back home, where I was talking to them about kind of like the coverage and the tenor of the coverage. You really felt like you were going through every spit and kick in that game because the way the crowd was. And I'm not surprised that Carver, an Englishman, let's not forget, was kind of blown away or swept up in it, because it really was something special for those of us that were really, really fortunate enough to be there.
Well, I have to hold my hands up here and say I don't like Flower of Scotland.
Yeah, you've written that a few times, Matthew, over the years.
I'd get rid of it and replace it with something else. But yeah, the pre-match Flower of Scotland was pretty rousing. I don't know. I just don't like it. I really don't. On a number of different levels. I think I don't like it when they start singing it during a game. I just think it's a you know, the.
You don't think it's tempo, do you? That's it. It's not right.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I really don't. I mean, yeah. Listen. You're right. I mean, the minute I walked into that stadium, I just said, "This is Tynecastle." You know, on a grander scale, it was, you know, high stands, close to the pitch, and I thought this is going to be brilliant, and it was. And the national anthem before kick-off, as John Carver said to us out here in Garmisch today, it was pretty emotional, but I don't like it during the game. I just think it's not upbeat enough. It's not sort of rousing enough. I just think it does nothing to help the players in the park. But I think the atmosphere was amazing. The fans were amazing. I think that's a discussion for another day, possibly.
Yeah. Well, 1.3 million people on TikTok clearly like Flower of Scotland, so perhaps you've got to take that on board.
Well, I'm with the other 3.7 in Scotland that don't like it.
Yeah. Listen, we could talk about this forever. I just want to ride back on something I said earlier. I think I said Tynecastle times 10. There was clearly a bit of hubris going on there, Matthew. Tynecastle times 2, I think, is a fair fairer one. I don't want to upset the heart supporting viewers. Definitely not times 10. But you know, I was trying to think of. I think it's 44,000 in there or something like that. So it was certainly very, very impressive. In terms of anything else that came out today, was there anything else that struck you? I mean, John Carver, when he gets put up, occasionally he'll come out with his zinger. I always remember a unprompted, absolutely slaughtered the National Training Centre, which was a bit of a jaw dropper. Anything like that's not come out yet?
No. I think he must have been given an extensive debrief by the SFA media team after that one. But no, he's a great character. John Carver, he's a good foil for Steve Clarke, I think.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that Steve Clarke isn't any of these things, but he's very jovial and outgoing and upbeat, and he strikes me as the kind of guy that if you were a player and he was your assistant manager, you'd love him. I also think he knows football. I think he's incredibly experienced, and I think he's a good guy for Steve Clarke to have as the assistant manager of the national team. But no, there was no diplomatic bombshells dropped by John today. It was just really looking forward to the game, and confident Scotland can do it if they play a little bit better than they did against Switzerland.
Yeah, I mean, I've noticed today that obviously, listen, you don't want to get ahead of yourself, Matthew, but I feel like confidence is probably growing. It's fair to say that people are looking at this, a win against Hungary sends you into the last 16, almost certainly. Now, this is Scotland. We've seen some crazy stuff happen in the past when, they've looked very good. I think Scotland once got the equivalent of 5 points in a group and went out. In 1974, they drew with Brazil, drew with Uruguay, and beat Zaire, and still went out.
If there's a way to fail to qualify, we'll find it.
Indeed. I mean, obviously, even 4 points is golden now, but we remember in Euro 96, Scotland obviously drew against Holland in the first game. They're fortuitously, I would say, defeated by England, who scored a fantastic goal through Gascoigne. But I think Scotland, on the balance to play, for everyone old enough to remember the grudges I've been harbouring for 30 years on that one, I think Scotland probably deserves something out of that game, and then beating Switzerland. So they got 4 points in that group and went out in goal difference. So 4 points has been achieved before, but the way that it's pans out in terms of the numbers and the qualifying, because there's the amount of teams and then you need to go down to 16, it leaves it more achievable for a team who are battling out for second spot to also get in through the third spot. But there's a number of permutations, and it came to light actually that it's even possible for Scotland to qualify with 2 points. I saw this earlier on, Scotland's coefficient, which is a magnificent Twitter account. If anyone is on Twitter and don't follow them, you should, because they do phenomenal work in terms of detailing the facts behind anything to do with qualifying or any mathematics around football. It really is terrific. So there's they've done a kind of a chart on what must happen and on what dates for Scotland to qualify with 2 points. So Matthew, I'll kind of give you the overview of this. So in terms of Monday the 24th, Spain and Italy must both win. On Tuesday the 25th, Denmark must win, and England must win by 4, provided Scotland score more versus Hungary than Slovenia score versus England. Tuesday the 21st, Poland v Austria must be a draw. Netherlands versus Austria and France v Poland. Netherlands and France must both win. You go into Friday to Saturday and the Wednesday. The Scotland, Slovakia must win. Slovakia v Ukraine, but that didn't happen today. So that screwed it up. So this was earlier on. So Slovakia must win has been a negative to it. So anyway, there's loads of permutations that can take place, and I suppose everyone is now trying to break down everything based on each and every individual action that takes place. But for Scotland, surely it's just win or bust. That's the mentality.
I was going to say, let's hope none of that matters. Let's just try and get the win, and then we don't have to worry about that. Yeah, but I've just written about that. At this particular juncture, 2 points is not beyond the realms of possibility. So I don't know. I would be surprised, but never say never. But let's just concentrate on getting the win and building on the performance and the result against Switzerland.
Yeah, absolutely. So listen, how are you feeling? Match day -2 now. tomorrow's obviously going to be, you're going to be jumping in a train and heading up here to Stuttgart. I think, what was it, 3.5 hours, something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
And we'll speak to the Scotland team and then the player and the manager and get a sense of how they're feeling. How do you think it's going to pan out? We're still got a little bit to go. There's still a bit of time for Scotland players to get themselves together, but are you feeling more or less confident than you were after Switzerland?
Do you know something? I think I've got bipolar disorder, because my view on it changes, every half an hour. There's so many positives, there's so many negatives, and I just, one of the things that I'd be interested to see was, it was such an intense game on Wednesday. Is everyone going to be fit? I mean, Grant Hanley, who I thought made a huge difference, he has hardly played football, 90 minutes of football for months. Is he going to be okay? If he's not okay, that's a major blow. So there's, we don't know you don't know the fitness situation of everybody yet, apart from Kieran Tierney. So it's really difficult to say. Steve Clark said a very interesting thing after the Switzerland game. He said that, which kind of made my ears prick up. He said he was never going to play Billy Gilmour against Germany. He was always going to start him in the second game, and I believe that. And I think that I just thought that was really quite interesting. I just thought that suggested to me that he was thinking, well, let's concentrate on Switzerland and Hungary. Let's look to Switzerland and Hungary. And he always admitted that one of the lessons he learned from Euro 2020 was that his team weren't fresh enough for Croatia. He should have freshened it up more. The England game had been really intense and it took too much out of them. And I just think, he had a long-term strategy, and that long-term strategy was, we're not going to get anything against Germany, so let's focus on Hungary and Switzerland and Hungary, and let's bring Billy Gilmour in. And that gives me a bit of hope, actually, because I thought, as good as Billy Gilmour was against Switzerland, he's played better, and I think that the 90 minutes will do him the world of good. And I would hope and expect Billy Gilmour and Callum McGregor to step it up a level. Same again with Scott McTominay, who hadn't played since the FA Cup final. I thought he was great. I think he'll step it up a level. And then I look at it and go, well, is Hanley going to be okay? Scott McKenna's not Kieran Tierney. Is Anthony Ralston going to benefit from the 2 games he's got? I hope so. And give a better account of himself. So I don't know. I'm just up and down like a yo-yo, to be perfectly honest with you. I just I've gone for a draw in my prediction. And again, I went for a Switzerland win on Wednesday night, and I was delighted to be proved wrong. I really hope I'm proved wrong with my draw prediction for Sunday as well.
Yeah, well, I suppose you're coming home if they lose. Probably if they draw, but you're staying out in Germany. And listen, you could be out there for the whole month, Matty, from the first game to the last.
I know.
Who knows? We've seen Greece win the Euros. I don't think Scotland are going to do it, having seen a lot of these teams. I saw Spain last night. Matty, the whole time I was watching it, I was thinking to myself, how on earth did Scotland beat this side? Because they made the Italians at times look very, very ordinary indeed, and they have some excellent players. So it shows you, though, that Scotland on their day can be a real threat to even the best sides, and we probably just have to live in that hope for the rest of the tournament. But certainly Hungary are a team that Scotland can do well against. They're a team that Scotland can beat, and we'll go into the game on Sunday with that level of positivity. Listen, thank you everyone to watch. We've got 400 watching live now, which is absolutely cracking. So thanks for everyone who's joined us and anyone who's left comments in there. Thank you very much for that. And we will catch up with you soon. We're doing this every day, so we'll be back tomorrow, probably from the Stuttgart Stadium, which I'm told by a couple of people today talking to in the street, that is one of the best stadiums in Germany and will be a phenomenal venue for Scotland tomorrow night. So on Sunday night. So I'm really looking forward to that. But listen, thanks for everyone for joining us, and we will catch up with you soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Jonny.
Thank you. Thanks, Matty.